guest, then you have to share your little space.
I guess so.
Sorry, hold on.
Yeah. Since I have the extra mic, so I guess so. I can slide over. If we got a little guest.
Is that graffiti on the Xbox?
I don't know what that's for. It looks like a clear statement.
Oh, if you manufacture this must just be flipped.
Good evening. It is Monday, September 13th, 2021, 7:02 p.m. Call to order the Sutton School Committee meeting. Pursuant to Governor Baker's March 12th, 2020 order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law, this meeting of the school committee is in a hybrid format with both in-person and Zoom components. To join the meeting, visit www.zoom.us/join and enter meeting ID 841-6870-4059 and passcode 439083. The meeting will be broadcast and recorded on local public access station Verizon 31 and Charter Spectrum 191 and live streamed on the town's YouTube channel when available. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. First order of business is the Citizens Forum. Again, I would ask that anybody who speaks and anybody in the room, please respect the opinions of others if they are not in line with yours. The chair has the option to limit speakers to 3 minutes. The floor is open for public forum. Anybody online?
Not that I see.
Okay. Then we'll move to the consent agenda, the minutes of August 30th, 2021, and the bill schedules dated August 26th, 2021, and September 2nd, 2021. Do you have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Second. Okay. The order tonight is Paul first,
No question.
Nate,
No questions for me.
Pete,
No questions.
Ben?
No questions.
No questions here. Is motion on the floor to move?
Sir Bruce, were you supposed to see if we all named ourselves and how we run?
Oh, that's right. It's a roll call vote, isn't it?
Sorry,
Mr.
I'm just
Chairman?
reading that now, yeah.
Okay, it's a roll call vote.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
also, maybe when you do this roll call vote, at the beginning of the meeting, you're supposed to identify that people are present and in the meeting.
Okay.
Got it.
Sorry.
We will do that as part of the consent agenda.
We did that.
So it's a roll call vote, so
Paul Brennan, I'm attending in person, and I vote aye.
Nate Jerome, also attending in person, and I vote aye.
Peter Tufts, attending in person, votes aye.
Ben Gibbons, also in person, and I vote aye.
Bruce Edwards, attending in person, and I vote aye. Next item on the agenda is the student update from our high school students, Caroline Lambert and Aiden Rogan. Welcome. It's nice to see you in person.
Hi, thanks for having us.
What's going on at the school?
So we're back into our 7-block schedule when we drop one period every day and we have daily advisement again. So we're done with the 4-block schedule, and I think it's the consensus among students that that's a good thing. We all like the new schedule. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I can second that. A lot of people are like how getting back into the normal and having the 5-day schedule, 5 days in school, and this was the first week of 5 days. And last week we definitely were having a hard time with it, but our teachers are really supportive and we're doing a good job at it.
Sports are also back in action. We can attend all the live events, and outdoor sports, we don't need masks anymore, which is another good thing. Some of our teams aren't off to a great start, my team included. We're 0-1-1. I think football is 0-1, but field hockey just had a great win, and I think volleyball is finishing up right now. We'll see how that ended.
Yeah. This week is homecoming, so today we kicked off with pajama day. So we're all having a fun time with having Spirit Week this week, and we're all really excited for a normal homecoming and actually to have one. And I know that for me personally, this is only my second one because last year we weren't able to have one, so it's really exciting.
We're going to be having our homecoming dance in the courtyard, which is awesome because we don't need any masks and we can kind of live a normal life for a little bit, and that's a great thing. And tomorrow the theme is Hawaiian Day, and it's also Picture Day, so we'll see how that turns out in the yearbook. That should be kind of funny.
That's all I have.
Great. Do we have any questions for our guests? Paul?
Academics a year after, or skipping last year, is it sort of falling right back into where you were? Anything maybe new that teachers or students are applying from last year? Is there anything positive from last year that you're?
So we do carry laptops around with us every day now, and I think that makes it a lot easier to work online when we need to in the classroom. And the school-issued Chromebooks are available too if you don't have your own personal laptop, and that's another good thing.
Yeah, a lot of teachers from last year carried on like the Google Classroom and doing a lot of work online, which is really nice. So it was kind of an easier transition. But a lot of people are having more paperwork now, which is really nice. But academically, I think we've just fallen back to how we were before, and we're just still accelerating.
Yeah, first off, as always, thank you for coming. It's great to see you. Aiden, I think you've been here before.
Right.
Caroline, great to have you. It's always good to see new faces. Anything besides the masking that you guys still see as a challenge or something that could improve?
Not so much. I know the masking's not really in your guys' control. That's state issued. But if we can get to a point where we don't require them anymore, that'd be a good thing, obviously. But there's nothing issued.
Yeah, no, there's no challenges as of right now. Masks are just what it is, so
Okay.
it's not too much of a problem.
You had
Well,
your
I
chance
think-
and you didn't want to say 9 o'clock start day or something.
That'd be nice.
Right.
Thank you.
Yeah, speaking of that, how's the mornings going as far as getting into your first class? Are you both driving in yourselves?
Yeah, I drive in every day, and there's parking in the back lot. We all have our passes on our cars, so they can
Yep.
make sure we paid, and it's working out.
Excuse me, but it just looks like the morning routine is still kind of flexing its muscles a little bit in the morning. People get into classes on time, and 7:30 there's still a big lineup down the street. So I was just curious if you noticed a lack of students in your first classes. Not too bad.
No.
Not so much.
That's all I have to-
Thank you both for your updates. I appreciate it. I think the only thing I have is last time, and Aiden, it might have even been you, we had talked about an SAT option to take it on campus.
Mhm.
Has that been resolved? Have the students been able to find a location? Or is there anything we need to do as a committee to assist with that?
So we did get a test day in school at Sutton available for seniors only, which is a great thing for those students that had canceled test dates. And I'm going to be taking advantage of that, and I know a lot of my friends will be too. I think that's awesome that we were able to do that. And some students were able to find dates in between the last time we talked about this and when our scheduled test date is, but I think it's great that we do have a test date at Sutton.
Awesome. Thank you.
So Eden, I know you're a senior, so I know you've got a lot of paperwork to do and starting to find what's coming in the future. Please lean on guidance and your administrators to help you through that process. Good luck to you.
Thank you.
I have an idea what you're thinking. And keep us posted. Bring the good news and the bad news.
Will do.
And in between meetings, please feel free to share if there are concerns or anything that comes up.
As of right now, the guidance office has been readily available for all of us, and they really do their best to make meetings with us whenever they can, and they've been a great help so far.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Yeah, I know guidance especially has been really helpful too for me, just getting all my classes and credits that I need to graduate.
Good. That's great to hear. Thank you for coming in.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda is an athletics update with our athletic director, Christina Tamala.
Hello, nice to see you all.
How are you?
All right, I had shared with you via email just a few items that I wanted to go over today. Also, we'll post the same information on social media. I usually post on Facebook, Twitter, and then I'm working back to getting into Instagram for the Sutton Athletics site. So if you follow Sutton Athletics on any of those Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, that's where you'll find most of our quick updates. I wanted to share with you guys that we're really happy to be back for fall 2021, back with all of our sports, and we have a plethora of student athletes involved in 16 different teams this season. With that being said, I'll preface it all with we're back to normal under abnormal circumstances, and I'll go through some of those abnormal circumstances that we're dealing with on a daily basis, but we're really happy that these student athletes are out there practicing, they're working on team building, student leadership, and partnering with our teachers to make sure we're kind of fulfilling that educational athletics component of what we offer after school. So we do consider the athletic program an extension of our school day. We kind of run a mini school after school. If you've been out there today, for example, we had over 8 events happening across the community, and we're really happy that our athletes are out there doing that. For our sports offerings, right now we have volleyball, JV, and varsity happening in our Ramasco gym. We have 28 athletes in grades 9 through 12, and we have brand new coaching staff this year. We have Coach Erin Messier, she's an alumni, and our teachers Jill Carnes and Amber Trudeau working on the JV program. We are live streaming those events through NFHS, as well as offering spectators with masks indoors right now. So that's we're really happy to have that going on and not having to delay it like we did last year. For our outdoor sports, we're offering fall with the cooperative team with Douglas, 32 athletes in total, grades 9 through 12. Coach Pat Mosley is back with Coach Mulhane and alumni Darius Mitchell. Today we actually offered our first junior varsity game in about 2.5 years, so we're really happy to have good participation for our football team. Boys soccer, 38 athletes, grades 8 through 12, so there's a mistake on my document, I'll fix that. Grades 8 through 12, Coach Mike Elster, Coach Rob Magner, working with our boys. Mostly they're practicing up at Memorial Field, which we do have a contract with Sutton Youth Soccer to utilize their field for practices, and a few games. Today we did host a JV game because we had football and field hockey going on at the same time. We utilized that field. Girls soccer, JV and varsity, 32 athletes, grades 7 through 12. We did open up to 7th graders for girls soccer because we had less students in grades 9 through 12 that were coming out for the team. Some of that due to maybe club soccer or other obligations, just so you're aware of some of the things we're working on there. For field hockey, steady participation at 37, grades 7 through 12. Traditionally, that program is grades 7 through 12. Our JV program, mostly 7th and 8th graders, and we schedule accordingly so that those athletes are usually with middle school programs or schools that have younger athletes so that we're keeping it safe for them. High school cross country, we currently have 10 athletes for both boys and girls, grades 9 through 12 with Coach Bill Gillen. And he says just like every year, it might be his last year coaching, but I don't know if that's happening. I'm sure he'll be back. Middle school cross country, right now 39 athletes. With middle school cross country, it's open this year to grades 6 through 8. Last year we just did 7 and 8 because of some of the restrictions in place. We didn't want our brand new middle schoolers learning how to also be student athletes at the same time as all the different changes that were going on. So I think that's the jump there. We had 6 athletes last year, 39 this year, and there's a couple more trickling in, so that might go up a few. We have Coach John Stone, who teaches at the high school, and Coach Joan Carden from the middle school. So that program is great because our student athletes are kind of learning how to be a student athlete, learning what a locker room is, how to store their gear, balance out their student expectations as well as what they need to do after school. Mixed gender golf, we bumped quite a bit from usually about 8 athletes to 20 this year for golf. So we do have a junior varsity and a varsity program. So Coach Matt Milishevsky is back. Last year took a hiatus, and then we added Coach Mike Zagami for our junior varsity program. So when our varsity program is out there competing, we have our junior varsity back with Mr. Zagami and working at Blackstone National again. So we're really happy to have that program kind of blossoming. We have opponents, we have facilities, we have full rosters. What we're missing are a few things that I'll go over. Normal schedules, 3 to 4 events per team, depending. Football, usually 1 to 2 events. We have some abnormal circumstances that we're dealing with right now. Our schedules, I know that we've been working on kind of operating under this new scheduling system called Arbiter. There is an app. I do have a link in the document that was shared with you guys earlier today. There's an Arbiter Sports app, Arbiter Sports Live, which shows live updates for scores. And if you're tech savvy and you use your Google Calendar or an iCal, I have a link so you can insert the calendar into Google Calendar, and it's updated once a day from Arbiter. So if I make a change on a game, it will update on your calendar if you import that URL that's listed. This is new for us. We used to use the MIAA site, which was antiquated. I think it was maybe from 1999. This is new. It actually has an app. So we are enjoying the features, but it is a learning curve for all of our athletic directors across the state. So we're trying to figure out how to make the schedules all mesh together. And there was a little bit of a learning curve on that. This week, even today, I was in a town hall meeting with about 15 other athletic directors, just troubleshooting some of the problems we're having to keep some consistency with that website. So thank you for your patience, those of you that have been struggling with where's the schedule. The other thing that I am working on is adding the schedule kind of updates to Twitter, so it'll live feed on our website, which I do have on there, but there's just a little bit of a firewall issue, so we're rectifying that in the next couple of days. I did mention social media. I think that'll be the best way for you to get information if you want quick updates. So that's at Sutton Athletics, Twitter, Facebook, and then I'm working on Instagram for more of the visual aspect. The kids really like to see them pictures out there of what's going on. Some of the issues for this fall, I listed just a few here. Transportation is one of them. I think from what I understand, National Guard's coming out to help out with some bus driving. We are in dire need of bus drivers. There will be beautiful days and games will be canceled because we don't have buses. And that's not just Sutton, that's BVT, that's every school around. I had 3 different schools today have 3 different transportation issues just for our events today. We didn't have a volleyball bus on the way home on Friday, had parents driving students home and coaches home. We had delayed starts today to JV boys soccer, for example, from Uxbridge, because they couldn't get a bus here any sooner than the start time. So I just wanted to update our community and say thank you for your patience. I know it's difficult. I think that we, as a state, threw a lot of athletic events onto our bus companies, and they're having a tough time just dealing with school, let alone all the after-school activities. So thank you for your patience with that, and we're working hard. Officials, give you an example of some of the officiating issues that we're having. Sitting in a field hockey meeting with our assigner, who's the boss of all the refs in a bunch of different leagues, says there's 55 field hockey teams in Central Mass and 40 officials. So there are not enough officials for the games that we have scheduled across the board. So when we want to reschedule, we have to actually find a date where there's somebody available to come to the game. And in some cases, it'll be 1 official. Usually there are 2. For many of the sports, football has 5. Because those are once a week, we tend to be able to have football officials. Hopefully that does not lead to inconsistencies with gaming. I know that sometimes when a game is close, someone misses something, if we only have one official with 2 eyes out there, they might miss something. So we're hoping that we can get more officials out there. So if anyone's interested, let me know. I can put you in touch with the right people to get you out there officiating, hopefully soon. Opponents, some of our teams do not have full opponent schedules. For example, JV. I'm working on adding some junior varsity games because many schools had lower turnouts. BMR, for example, did not have JV soccer across the board. So we're trying to add in some other teams that are missing those events as well. So I'm trying to piece together some of our programming there. Equipment, due to some supply, demand, and materials, some of our equipment has either been delayed or changed. For example, a big thank you to Unibank and Booster Club for sponsoring some brand new scoreboards that were supposed to be installed in August, but have been delayed until late October. So that's a steel issue. So there's not enough steel out there. They can't get us the scoreboards, even though they're paid for. So thank you, Unibank and Booster Club. But we will get those hopefully late October. And that will be brand new scoreboard on our main field, our football, soccer field, multi-use field, and then also on our junior varsity field, baseball field. So we'll have new scoreboards out there too. Another issue we've had is soccer balls. There's not enough. New Balance decided to stop making soccer balls last year, so we had to kind of figure out how to get more soccer balls for our teams. And then golf balls. We're just trying to work on pricing for that so we can get everything that our teams need without breaking the bank. Those are just a few of the issues that we're working on, but getting through them. Added this season, for some good news, Central Mass has added tournaments for soccer, field hockey, volleyball, and potentially golf. So our varsity teams will be competing in a tournament toward the end of their regular season, and then off to the MIAA tournament if they're successful enough to get there. So we're really happy to have that districts feel back. For those of you that know districts, it's kind of like Central Mass, competing against each other, good rivalries, and good competition. So we're hoping for that toward the end of October. Schedules will be released the second week of October for those tournaments. It's dependent upon our strength of schedule and our records. We have homecoming coming up this week. It is early. We do base our homecoming off of a lot of different factors, one of them being home games, home football games. And this year we had a home football game scheduled for an SAT date and during Columbus Day weekend, which kind of caused a little bit of a challenge for us. So we had one of the first homecomings in our league. So we will be playing this Friday and Saturday, sharing those schedules. Friday we will host Bartlett for football at 3:30 in the afternoon. And we have volleyball. We're hosting Hopedale and all of our other sports. Volleyball is also on Friday. Soccer and field hockey both play on Saturday. And all of our classes will be selling different items, whether it's food, apparel, face painting. So it's going to be a good time. So starting at 8:30 on Saturday through about 4 o'clock, we have all kinds of good stuff happening on campus, and we'd love to see our community come out and support our Sammys and Susies. I feel like I talked a whole bunch. You have any questions or comments?
Paul?
Thanks for coming. It's always a pleasure. One thing I would just compliment the notion and the commentary around athletics and how it plays into the entire school and developing the child and some of the education. I think right now we've got a really good balance between you've got a team and the varsity's looking for the win with what we're learning from it. And so I would attribute that to the leadership. I think that's great. I did, just to get the right mix, in football it was 32. Is that 32 total on the team, or is that Sutton only plus Douglas?
It's total, 32 total. We have about 8 Douglas athletes right now.
Great.
I think there's a couple more strolling in this week that were new to football, and we're kind of waiting to see what it was going to look like. So I think we have 2 more Douglas athletes coming in
Get them on
this
before
week.
Friday, maybe, right?
Yeah.
And the other towns you're saying, it seems like the numbers are down. I don't remember, is cross country down?
Cross country's a little down this season, yes.
But that's about it for Sutton Athletics.
Cross country's down, but then golf is up. So it's kind of this interesting, kind of what the students want right now, and they've kind of moved around based on
with golf you can
their
take a break
interest.
now and then.
Yeah.
With cross country you have to keep running. Makes sense. It's great. Thanks.
Awesome.
Nate?
As always, thank you for coming. Great update. One of the things, and I probably should know this specifically, but I know with transportation, we had to do something a couple years ago where it was students are not allowed to drive themselves or others to or from, and we're in a tough spot now. I don't know if there's any flexibility on that or if it's a policy change, but I guess that would probably come into question. I could foresee people asking about that.
What we do offer for transportation is if there is a practice on campus, and we consider Memorial Field and Shaw Farm part of our campus when we have practices, that student athletes are allowed to drive each other to our practices. But for events, it can be a sibling. This is a parent, an extenuating circumstances. It's Nana's 90th, and they got to leave early. Then we're going to allow them to leave early, and we just need written consent from a parent that says that that is possible for them to leave an event after the end of it to drive themselves. They're expected to take the transportation this year. Last year we did have some transportation quirks, I guess, because we wanted students to feel safe and comfortable, and we allowed them to drive themselves last year. This year it's expected they ride the transportation to and from the event.
If we have it.
If we have it.
That's, okay.
And then if we're driving home at 8 o'clock on a Friday with no bus, we just talk to every parent and say thank you for their flexibility. It sometimes happens once a season. This year it happened really early in season that we didn't have a bus show up.
So let us know if there's anything we need to consider, any adjustments we need to try to make for that.
We're making some contingency plans with our teams. If a bus doesn't show, step 1, call this line. Step 2, contact parents. Step 3, so we are making contingency plans with our teams if there's a bus that does not show.
Awesome. Thank you.
It's a long walk everywhere to Sutton. I love the fact that we can pull our middle schoolers up into the JV sports. I mean, I wish we had the athletes that we didn't, but I think it's such a great thing to bring those new middle schoolers, especially after last year. And I just had a quick question about how do you, it's been a long time since I've been in a high school locker room. How do you do the social distancing and the whole thing in the locker rooms?
It's a great question. Last year we had some good practice with rotating because we could not use locker rooms for storage last year. The students stored their items in the weight room, which became a storage room. This year we're allowed to use the locker rooms for storage. So we have a rotating kind of team that can use the locker room, 2 teams at a time usually. So we'll have JV and varsity boys soccer, for example. Football is usually one of the last. They start at 3 o'clock. So we have a rotating schedule. It's listed on the doors. If somebody has an away game, they're the first ones that go in to change, and then they exit the building. So yeah, we do rotate that around, and we do have a middle school locker room for the girls' team right now. The boys' locker room is used for the health office. So we are kind of working around that with the health office.
Cool, thank you.
Ben?
Yeah, nothing specific for me, but thanks for the update. I'm actually kind of surprised to hear that many athletes are participating given the years we've had. So that was encouraging to me. So thanks for the update. Appreciate it.
I just want to follow up on Nate's question, on transportation. So anticipating issues, do we, are we calling the bus company each day to find out if there's going to be an issue? The issue that we had with I think you said volleyball not showing up after. Was that a surprise?
It was, because it was something that I communicate with the bus company pretty much on a daily basis, but on a weekly basis, I ask them for the following week's events so I can confirm if there are any changes. Sometimes there's a rain out or a JV game is pushed to 4. I want to make sure the times are correct. So I do follow up with them once a week to go through the dates and times of all of the events and locations to make sure there aren't any changes. The volleyball was just, I had our Sutton Public School bus drop the volleyball team. And then the back end was supposed to be AA transportation, and it just got lost.
Okay. The activity bus that we have, are there any sports using that? Looking at the numbers, it looks like cross country, perhaps golf, maybe even volleyball. Are they using that bus?
It's a great question. The transportation, the activity bus has 14 passenger and then a driver.
Right.
Our coaching staff this season right now they're not going to be driving it, so I'd have to get a driver for that.
Okay.
I do have a couple of calls out for a few dates for cross country that are a little farther away for invitationals.
Yep.
And I'm trying to work on some drivers for that to kind of cut our costs on that. For golf, because they leave right after school, I do not have a driver for that activity van right now.
Okay. And then I had another question on scheduling. Is there any way to get the sports schedules on the school's website?
I do have a link right on the athletic site to the Arbiter schedule, which
Okay,
should
but-
bring it right up for you.
And I meant on the school, in the school calendar and on the school website. I mean, so when the schedule came out and I was looking at the Arbiter for schedules, there wasn't much there. So I went to the school website, there was nothing. But what I did is I went to some of the other schools that we play against, and they had schedules on their websites as well. I mean, I don't know. When I think of sports, I want to see a game. The first thing I think of is going to the school website to see if there's any. I would assume people in town would do the same thing and not know to go to the Arbiter.
Sure.
Would it be that much of an issue to get the schedules on the school website?
I could work with the whoever works on the actual calendar, and maybe it's Diane. I could work and make sure I can get the information. If it's as easy as putting in that URL from the iCal feed from our Arbiter site, then maybe that's something that
Okay.
they could speak to each other and get that calendar up there. Otherwise, we're putting in.
We will do this.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because there are people like me who don't do anything you just mentioned.
Yeah.
And I just go to a calendar and want to see that. So that's something that I work with Jocelyn
Sure.
in the guidance office and with Christine to make sure that we get that up there so that us
Okay.
older folk just have a simple place to find when
Sure.
the events are taking place.
I will say the app is really user-friendly. If you follow Sutton High School, you can check the team that you'd like to follow, and then it will give you some updates
Okay.
right on there.
And
Anything's better than that MIA one.
is
It's way better
the
than
MIA scheduling not used at all?
It is
this-
not used.
so the
They're
Arbiter is-
transitioning to Arbiter only.
Okay, all right. And then the other thing is, I'm really excited that we have a lot of middle school students participating. I was curious, do we send any of our varsity athletes down to the middle school in advance of a season? So it's kind of hard for the fall sports and because of COVID in last year, but I'm thinking going forward for the spring sports or the fall sport, the winter sports and the spring sports, where we're going to allow middle school students to play, to have some of our, whether it's seniors or captains of teams, go down and introduce themselves and talk a little bit about the opportunity. I think that would be a great way to transition. I think it's good for the seniors that are on the team. I think it's great to help the middle school kids see, people they've looked up to as athletes come down and talk to them and get to know them and kind of lay the foundation of getting them to transition in. So, okay,
I like that.
terrific.
Thanks.
Thank you. Any more questions?
Thanks, Christina.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, guys.
Christina.
Good luck this weekend.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda is the FY21 final budget transfer update. Nancy?
Hello.
Hi.
So for the FY21 transfer update, I actually plan to present these closing figures at the next meeting.
Okay.
So I can tell you we're gonna have a substantial savings due to the one-time grants that we were awarded and the savings that we had in transportation due to being in a hybrid model next year.
Okay.
But I'll be able to go over all of that with you at the next meeting.
Okay. Then we'll move to the FY22 budget update.
Okay. So I have one update on the budget for the start of the school year. So we were entitled to grant for $45,000 for after-school or out-of-school time. We haven't officially determined the use of these grant funds at this time. We might use them for next summer, or we might use it for tutoring over the school year. Once we have determined that, we'll come back to the committee and let you know how we will be using the funds.
Okay.
And as of right now, you have the Munis Report in your folder, and everything's looking good for the start of the school year. So in regards to transportation and staffing, the beginning of the school year has been challenging. We have been having difficulty finding IAs, custodians, food service workers, and monitors. We currently are short 7 IAs, 1 bus monitor, 2 custodians, and 2 food service workers. We're very fortunate.
Down to 1 custodian, we did hire someone today. So.
Oh, well, that's good. We are fortunate to have staff and faculty in Sutton that are willing to work beyond their normal duties to make the beginning of the school year successful. But this cannot work for much longer, so we're hoping that we can get more applicants to fill these positions soon.
Okay.
We also had a difficult start of the school year with transportation. This has been a lot of extra work for our administrative assistants in each school in getting this resolved. As you know, there's a national driver shortage, and AA is short drivers. AA has been working very closely with us, and we're getting very close to getting most of this resolved. But I want to thank the parents for their patience as we work together to resolve their concerns. And I do promise that we will get to all of their concerns and address them.
Okay.
And that is my update.
Thank you. Paul?
Thanks. The $45,000 grant that you're talking about using, does that in any way, shape, or form apply to budgeted activity, or is this will be additional services you
Yep.
apply?
So we can use this for professional development for staff. We can also use it for remediation for students. So for instance, one of the things I'm going to talk about is what happens when a child is quarantined. So we have to do some remediation for kids if they're not able to go to school for a 5, 8, 10-day period. We can provide additional tutoring services after school. We can also run, like we did this last summer, a summer camp as well. But this will not offset the budget in any way.
And so if we had the budget absolutely perfect, what we'd see is we spent $45,000 more than the budget had in mind because it's based off of this grant and was applied into additional.
Correct.
Correct.
Excellent. And then I guess just a shout out, thanks to the staff where you mentioned, where we're short folks and people are stepping up. It's a great community of staff you've got that are doing great service.
It really is. They're great teamwork, I have to say. It's been amazing.
Yeah, I'd second that on the staff. They've always just been tremendous. The one thing I have was, you mentioned trouble staffing and it's difficult. Is it lack of applicants? Is there people rejecting offers?
Both.
Both?
Yep. Both.
Okay.
Yep.
All right, thank you.
Yeah.
And just kind of a follow-up to that is if we're short 7 IAs, what would full staffing with IAs be?
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear.
If do we normally staff 8 and we have 7 out, or do we
Yeah, we're
normally
short
staff 20
7
of them?
hires of IAs.
Yeah.
So we need to hire 7 IAs to get to a
Well,
full
what
staff.
would a full staff of IAs be? How many people?
50.
Oh,
I don't know.
Approximately. I just don't know.
high
what-
50s, I would say.
Mid to high 50s.
Yeah.
Wow, okay.
Yeah, yeah.
It's like 15%.
Mm.
So,
I'm good, yeah.
Ben?
I mean, I just echo what everyone else said. Obviously, there are lots of areas that you mentioned that are pretty short-staffed that are, not that every area isn't critical, but I mean, some of those are obviously high-need areas. So there's obviously staff pulling a lot of double duty there, so thanks for sure. I guess just to hit on that IA piece, do we have a breakdown of where we're missing those? I mean, are we talking like the early learning center is missing 6 of those 7, or are we talking middle school is missing, 5 of those 7?
I
I believe
think-
it's split. I think 3 between the middle high school and 4 between the early learning center and elementary school. And the way I see it, we can manipulate people around by the different schools. So we've shifted so many people around that obviously there are areas where we have to have IAs in situations. We have situations where you have students that need a one-on-one aid. So those students, there is no way around that. We have classroom instructional assistants. We can manipulate that a little bit and move them around and do coverage that way. So we're able to do this on a short-term basis. And in a small district, and this is not unusual, it's happened my entire career here, where Andrea, the special education director, has been a one-on-one aide this year. I've monitored a bus. I've driven a van. In a small district, everybody needs to step up and do certain things in this difficult time. And being small, we're able to do that. But it's, at some point, you burn people out, and the people that you have on staff, just say, because it's such a human business, it's such an intense business at times. So we're working hard to fill those positions. But it's hard when you put up posts on School Spring, where we post most of our jobs, and you literally get no applicants. It's amazing. I've never seen this before in my career. So we'll make it work for a little bit longer.
Are we in the same situation with substitute teachers as well, just not getting the numbers?
That's correct. And what I've told the principals, if you have a sub who's willing to come every day, because we pay $80 for a daily rate, but we pay $110 if you come for 20 consecutive days. So we've authorized the principals that if they have a few subs that are willing to come every day, we'll start them right at $110, and we'll call them in, and they'll come in every single day. Because we're short 7 instructional assistants now, so anyone who can get into the building every single day, we're going to do.
Nancy, I had a question on the transportation. I know there were lots of problems. I just want to make sure that we didn't have any issue leaving any kids standing at a bus stop.
No.
We didn't miss any kid at a bus stop. Or did we miss some bus stops, and I assume some bus runs were longer than anticipated or delayed?
What the main issue was is that they changed locations of bus stops.
They being?
The bus company.
Okay.
And the routes were changed. So a lot of the bus stops weren't safe. They needed to be looked at and relocated. And a lot of the routes had to be rerouted. To do that, it's time consuming. And Ted and myself went out many times to go look at many bus stops. A parent calls who said they weren't comfortable with the stop that they had. So it's a matter of going to look at it, getting our.
Do we have the police help us with bus stops and determining what's a safe spot, or can we use them to help us?
Nancy and I go out, and I just use a simple, would I feel comfortable with my grandchild being picked up at this stop? And if the answer is no, then we work with the bus company. We probably had 40 or 50 concerns from parents. We've whittled that down to less than 10, and so the parents are really appreciative. So I think the bus problem has been a significant problem. I don't want to undermine that, but at the same time, we've only been in school for 2 weeks. We've narrowed it down to less than 10 stops we have to address. And to AA's credit, their buses have run. We have not had a situation where a driver didn't show up and we didn't have a bus run. So they've been here every single day. They've done the runs. The problem is they were going off of an old list. When they built the runs, they went off of a list that was 2 years old. And so that kind of threw things in, which created havoc those first couple of days. But as I've said many times in these meetings, AA Transportation has been a great partner, and they work with us, they take our calls, and when we call and say this is not a safe pickup, they're right there to respond and address that issue. So we're very fortunate in that way. We're not like some other communities that are having such difficulty. AA has been there with us under these difficult circumstances. I think the problem comes in when you start talking about sporting events.
Right.
And you need every driver to run your high school run and your elementary run, which pushes all the drivers that are available to run the sports runs. And we run that same problem with our drivers that we have, because they have to run their elementary run and they're not done until 3:30, 3:45. And the sporting events start at 4 o'clock. So that's where Christina was talking about the problem with sports. That's the problem.
And you said that we did not have any problems with missed runs.
No, so in regards to the daily transportation of the students, we had a driver for every run.
Okay,
Nothing's been missed. It's adjusting the runs so they work safely
good.
and timely. Getting timely you got the high school run, middle school run first, and they have to get back in time to get to the early learning center and elementary run. So it's getting all that adjusted is where the problems lie, not with actually the drivers.
And how do we sit with number of students that are taking the bus compared to 3 years ago? Is it the same percentage, or is it a much significantly lower percentage?
I would have to look at it to get you, I could give you the figures, but
Okay.
I don't have it with me for today.
Okay.
But it's much
feel like
closer to
it's-
where it was.
Yeah.
But it's-
Okay.
I would say, though, that's not 100% back.
Yeah.
I would say it's similar to, like, student, parents who opt to homeschool.
Right.
We're still 20 students above what we were for the previous 8 years. So there are still, I'm sure, some parents that continue to drive their students into school.
And some are still signing up. It's still early, but at the next meeting I can bring you numbers.
Okay. Any more questions for anyone, for Nancy? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Nancy. Thank you very much, Nancy.
Next item on the agenda is to appoint the superintendent to serve on the Southern Worcester County Educational Collaborative Board.
I'll make a motion to appoint Superintendent Fred to serve on, Superintendent Friend to serve on the Southern Worcester County Educational Collaborative Board as presented.
Second.
Any discussion? Paul?
No, I think it's worth just sort of the annual rundown on what this is and why
We will.
Ted's there, not us.
So, I mean, we do this every year. We have
Yeah.
to appoint somebody. It could be somebody from the committee, but for the most part, everybody in the collaborative appoints their superintendent. And
Correct.
We've done so, and it's been great representation.
And I guess if Ted, can you just give us
Sure.
a quick,
Yeah.
what
Sorry.
does this thing do?
So there are 26 collaboratives, special education collaboratives across the state, and they're designed to offer specialized special education programs that individual districts can't offer. And so you might have a medically fragile program like Southern Worcester County. So we don't have the ability to offer that program here. They offer it there. They have programs for behavior disorder students. They have programs for autistic students. And it's a much more inexpensive, cost-effective way to run special education programs. So the Southern Worcester County encompasses from Millbury all the way out to Quabog, to Tantascwa, Douglas, Dudley, Charlton. It incorporates, I believe, 19 communities. And we've been with that organization for probably the last 30 years. And so the reason why you appoint someone to these boards now is 4 or 5 years ago, there was another collaborative where someone embezzled $4 million. And so the state stepped in and said, we want more oversight over this, and this is part of the procedure. You have to appoint someone to serve on the board, and then they come and observe the board meetings on a regular basis.
Paul? Anything? Nate? Pete?
I guess my only question, maybe it's because I'm a new member of this committee, is why, no offense, but why you and not the director of special education?
They serve on another board with the collaborative. All the special education directors serve on that board because it's a fiduciary job and you determine budgets and contracts and everything. It's always the superintendent.
Okay, makes sense.
This is a roll call vote.
Brennan,
Jerome, I.
Tufts, aye.
Gibbons, aye.
Edwards, aye. Passes 5-0. Next item on the agenda is to discuss subcommittees for policies and negotiations. Mr. Friend.
So we are very fortunate to have hired Andrea Alves Thomas, who is an attorney and who also loves policy. And because there are so many policy updates that we need to get done, and a lot of it is very minor corrections and changes, the only efficient way to do this is to have a couple of members on a subcommittee that will meet with Andrea 4 or 5 times this year, and to just go through as many of them as possible with the small changes that take place to get the bulk of those out of the way. And having Andrea being able to be there to participate as an attorney, hopefully will make the process go smoother. We started a couple of years ago before COVID where we bring 3 policies and bring them to fruition. We're never going to get through those policies at that pace. So I believe, what did you say, Di? About 80 policies that need to be updated. And we're fine. There's nothing earth-shattering about these policy changes, but we just need to get ahead of it.
And these are the MASC policies that we normally see.
Correct.
That's what you're addressing.
And the changes, they change all the time because something happens, and so we just want to get ahead of it. And then the other one is negotiations. We do start negotiations with the SESA union, which represents everyone else besides the teachers and guidance counselors for the most part. So we'll need 2 members to chair that. I would say that Paul and Bruce, where you're already on with the STA, I would think that, I'm not sure how you want to handle the SESA negotiations.
I was going to ask Nate and Ben. I think Pete needs to recuse himself from it.
Yep.
So if Nate and Ben would handle the negotiations with the SEA, and you and I will continue on with the sure that we have right now. Okay.
And budget, we've just traditionally done budget with the whole committee. Nancy and I just looked at the budget schedule this morning. We've pushed it back, or we pushed it earlier in the year with the administration. We're going to be getting them out, the budget packets, this week, so that we want to be ready for the December 4th meeting or 6th meeting, so we can have a short meeting and then do budget, and do the budget, second budget subcommittee meeting in December, so that we can discuss the budget again in January, and we're ready for I believe it's the January 24th or 25th school committee public hearing. So we're targeting those first 2 Mondays in December to have our budget subcommittee meetings.
Okay. Are there any volunteers for the policies subcommittee?
I'll do it.
Oh, thank you, Pete. I guess there are no volunteers.
You can assign it.
I've been volunteered. Okay, that's not a problem. Does anybody have any other questions for Mr. Friend on policies or negotiation?
Not at this time.
Terrific. The next item is the superintendent's update.
So first of all, this afternoon was great. It's been so long it seems, since I was able to spend a beautiful afternoon going from the girls' field hockey game to the JV boys football game over to the girls' volleyball game. I didn't make it over to the soccer game because it was off campus. But to see the campus alive again and feeling like a normal school year was fabulous. If you haven't been on campus recently, we have installed 3 large tents on campus. They can be used by teachers to do outside lessons. They can be used for sporting events. They can be used for mass breaks, but they're going to be available. We'll keep them up until we get to where we have to take them down because of the, I don't want to say the 4-letter word, snow. So they can be used as how people want to use them. The main focus of PD to start the year has been really about the focusing on our curriculum and making sure that I'm going to have to just pull this down because my glasses fog up here. To address one of our goals, which is to make sure that we fill the gaps and plug the gaps where kids might have had learning loss. And so that's how we started the year. K-5, there's also another focus. Andrea Alves-Thomas has begun working with the reading specialists. As we said, we increased the reading specialists from 0.16 to 2.0. Part of what they're doing is providing professional development so that we're using the science of reading, and so that we're going to use this over the next 2 years so that we make sure that our reading curriculum is aligned pre-K to grade 5. So they started that work at the start of the year. The middle school with a new team of administrators, and I to make sure that I invite Brian to come in, the new middle and high school assistant principal, with a new team of Brian and Ann and Mike, our new guidance counselor. They started doing some team building work at the middle school because they have a new team, so they worked on that. Andrea also provided professional development on universal design for learning. You've heard, so it's a process in which you look at the whole child, as you were talking about earlier. It's not just academic, but it's social emotional, it's sports, it's everything. So Andrea provided some of that. And the high school also did some work with mental health and relaxation strategies that they can bring into the classroom. So it was a good start to the school year with professional development. Okay, moving to COVID. So DESE ruled that remote learning would not count toward time on learning. However, once students started to have to quarantine, DESE realized, oh my goodness, we have a problem. So we're going to tell students and parents of students who, for no fault of their own, happen to be sitting next to someone who happened to be COVID positive, that they can't come to school for 5 to 8 days, but you can't attend school. So that's a little bit of a problem. It's a little bit of a problem for us as well. So DESE said that if local districts want to, they can provide support for kids outside of school. So I'm working on an MOU with the teachers union, the STA, to have whenever possible, that a teacher has their microphone on and their camera on in their classroom, so that a student who is home, whether they're in for quarantine or they have COVID, that they'll be able to monitor and audit the classroom and stay up with the class. But I want the community to know that we're not going to go fully back to where we were before. So if a teacher wants to take a group out for a science lesson out on the, outside, we're going to encourage them to do that, where kids can take their masks off. Whenever we can, we will do this once we get the MOU. But beyond that, those students that miss 5 to 7 or 8 days because of COVID, because of quarantining, they're going to probably need some additional time getting caught up. And we'll use some of the $45,000 that we received from the grant to pay our teachers, and that'll be part of the MOU, if a child's out 5 days, we're going to provide X amount of time to get those students caught up and pay our teachers to do that. So that's what I'm working on right now with the teachers.
Ted, when you said that it doesn't count as time on learning, does that mean they're treated as being as absent?
Correct. So we will work around that in Sutton. We will we will not be counting that as time missing. If they don't participate, then it'll be an excused absence. But after what happened over the last 14, 15 months, we don't want a child to miss any more time and any more learning. So we will not count that against them, and we'll provide the supports as I laid out just a minute ago.
Would there be any record of an absence?
We would have to use that as an excused absence, not an unexcused absence. So there would be a record. Now, if they participate remotely and they put in X amount of hours remotely, then it wouldn't be an absence at all. It wouldn't be recorded as an absence.
Okay.
So the child logs on in the morning, the first period class, the teacher's on, the Zoom's on, the mic's on, they're covered, not an issue.
Okay.
And so it will not be, like I've said time and time again, it's not gonna be an issue in Sutton. There'll be some quirks, there'll be some classes that they won't be able to audit, but we'll be able to help those students out after school with our teachers providing additional supports.
I guess I just would like to understand it as you get a handle on it, and I get, but somehow get a feel for what the policy is around that, right? I know there are handbooks that talk about attendance and unexcused, and you're gonna have to come up with something, but better to know what the plan is before it's.
So we're small enough where, we know when a child has had the flu and was out a week for the flu. We also know if they flew to Florida. So we're able to track that, but we will be coding if it's COVID quarantine. So we'll code that in their attendance so we know why they're absent. So we'll have access to that. In my 20 years as a school administrator, the state has never come and said to me, how come this child missed 18 days this year? It's really more for the local district to control the attendance policy.
Yeah, I would consider it. I presume the state's gonna want reporting on it, because, why not? You've got time to do that.
We do report.
But just the notion of, within classes and kids understanding who's in attendance and who's not, and if that were to have any bearing on any.
Which leads me to my next subject, and that's testing. So I've talked about this in the state. They've rolled out testing in schools. And so when they rolled this out and offered it, they were overwhelmed by the number of districts that wanted to take advantage of testing. And they only had one coordinator, and now they've hired 3 coordinators, and we received our initial packet of testing equipment. The next step is all of our nurses have to be trained in how to do the testing. And we also have to hire a part-time nurse, which we've identified a part-time nurse, and I believe she's going to take the position. And it'll be 3 hours a day, and that person will coordinate all of the testing, and when they're there, they'll do the testing. Now, there'll be some days where there's no testing needed, but that person can do other roles and responsibilities in the nurse's office as we see it. But we've been told that there will be reimbursement for this nurse to be on staff. I don't believe that we have any choice but to be able to offer testing. To start the testing, what we're looking to do is to do 2 types of testing to start, and then we'll explore pool testing as well. So the first type of testing is if your child comes to school and a student near them was tested positive COVID, they would be brought to the testing area. By the way, I want to be very clear. We will not test anyone without the authorization of the parents. So parents have to authorize and allow us to test their child. But if they were a close contact, they would go in, they would be tested to determine whether they have COVID, and if they test negatively on the quick test, then they will be able to remain in school. The other type of testing we're going to do is, as we head into cold and flu season, there are so many symptoms that are cross between different illnesses. So if a child comes down to the nurse's office and says they don't feel well, and there are some of the symptoms associated with COVID, we'll be able to test them with parents' permission to rule out COVID-19. So that way, we're not doing, well, we can do contract tracing if they test positive, but also the parents will know whether the child has COVID or not. And then once we get those test protocols in place, then we'll have a discussion about whether we opt to do pool testing as well. But again, I don't anticipate us being fully up and running probably till the end of the month, once everybody gets trained, and we're waiting on the state to provide the training. So we're hoping that what this will do is minimize the number of students that have to quarantine during the school year, because that, right now I think we have a total of 10 students in quarantine right now. We've had no transmission in school that we know of, but there were close contacts, and there was also some close contacts outside of the school district. There were a total of 6 students that had a quarantine because they were close contact in school. The other 4 were close contacts outside of school. So I don't see any way, if we want to keep our school system operating and keeping kids in school as we get into the November, December, January, and February, unless we're offering regular testing for our students.
And who's paying the cost of the test?
All the testing equipment is provided by the state. The training will be provided by the state. They're supposed to also cover some of the costs of having the nurses administer the tests. I just haven't seen anything from a dollars and cents standpoint coming from the state as far as covering the cost of the nurse.
So do we look at this as another unfunded partial mandate, or another partially unfunded mandate, or?
Well, I'm hoping they're going to, they have money. They pulled money out of the federal stimulus money to set aside at the state level to do things like this. So I think they are honest and sincere about providing the supports at the district level. I just need to see what they're actually talking about as far as reimbursement for the nurses. But all the testing equipment, all the training for the nurses will be provided by the state.
This equipment would allow you to run the test and get the results right in the same building.
Correct.
Any sense of how long it takes to get the results?
I'm not sure. I heard some numbers being tossed around, but I'm not the best person to ask that question. Once I find out all of the details, I'll have Michelle, our school nurse leader, come in and explain all the procedures.
Including the
again.
supplies, right? Because it'll be, for every test, there's a kit that you use up, right? So same question, I think, is, do you get the equipment, but you have to buy the supplies, or do you think the state will have
I
funds?
believe they'll be providing all of the supplies. That's what we're being told. We've had several large boxes come in. What we're looking to do is create a centralized location to do the testing. We've identified a location. We're going to have to move a staff member. But the location is really ideal. There is 3 separate rooms within this one room. There are windows to the outside, and there's an exit door where parents can come and pick the children up if they have to go home. So we're working on this. We're just waiting for more guidance from the state to begin the process. And the last thing I want to mention before my glasses fog up is our school resource officer this year will be Nick Bertoni. And I haven't met Nick yet. The police department has hired a lot of new staff in the last couple of years. But he'll be a new school resource officer. We have our first safety meeting in a couple of weeks. And because of some conflicts, some personal conflicts, Nick will be starting within the next few weeks. And so you'll see him around campus. That's all I got.
Go around the horn, see if we have any questions for Ms. Friend, nothing?
No questions?
No questions.
I'm good, thank you.
Terrific. Next item on the agenda is new business or action items.
Oh,
Good, thanks.
Pete,
No thanks.
Ben?
I'm good.
I just have one. Thank you, Di, for setting up a school committee email box for people to write in questions. We did get one. I won't mention the person's name, but the question is, and this is for, it came to the school committee, but I think Mr. Friend is the person to answer the question. If the school has to shut down due to COVID, is there a plan in place to immediately move the students to remote learning?
Oh, God, I hope not. I hope we don't have to go there. We are all set to, because of what we were last year, we have all the technology. We've purchased Zoom again, and we have all of the equipment in every single classroom so that we can revert right back to remote learning if we have to. So that will not be an issue. It'll be an issue if we have to do that, because I just don't want to go through that again. I did forget one other thing. I am holding coffee with the superintendent on Wednesday at 9, Di?
Yes.
At 9 o'clock in my conference room. I would like to have a larger facility, but the conference room covers as many people who want to come at any one time. So if parents want to come in, meet with me and talk about anything, any questions that they have, I'll be available at 9 a.m. in my conference room.
Terrific. Yes, we need to.
Yeah, I'll make a motion to adjourn to executive session to discuss contract negotiations with Sutton Teachers Association and not reconvene in open session.
second,
And this is a roll call vote.
except Brennan, I.
Jerome, aye.
Tough side.
Gibbons, aye.
Edwards, aye. We're adjourned. Thank you.
I feel like I should be able to rip my mask off.
Well, you know, I was watching the volleyball game today, and I'm thinking, man, that's not
Spaghetti is yours.
it's not right.
Anyone wear glasses?
Oh, that's it. I mean, they just fog up.
Yeah, I mean, like, even if you're wearing just like safety glasses with contacts or something, because of like.
You know, I was just trying to talk, and then my glasses, and then it's like, it was totally off.
Do I shut this one down?
Or you can just,
Ted, they make a